No one assigned me the role. There was no family meeting, no conversation where someone said, "You will be the responsible one. You will be the protector. You will be the one who steps in when things get hard." It just happened. Because someone had to. And I was there. I spent years not knowing I had a role at all. I thought I was just living, just reacting, just doing what anyone would do. It wasn't until much later, with enough distance to finally see clearly, that I understood. I wasn't just living through it, I was managing it. And the cost of that management was something I carried long after I left the home it was built in. Welcome to The Fan in the Window, interrupting what we inherit. I'm Tressa Bell. This podcast is about trauma, nervous systems, generational patterns, and the complicated, imperfect work of healing. I talk about family systems, caregiving, and what it means to tell the truth about the stories that shaped us. It's about what gets passed down and what we can choose to interrupt. Today's episode is called The Roles We Take On. In the last episode, I talked about what children carry when chaos is normal in the home. Today, I want to go one layer deeper, because children don't just carry the chaos. They organize themselves around it. They find ways to function inside of it. And that functioning, that survival strategy, becomes a role. Before I go further, I want to say something clearly. This podcast is not therapy. It's not medical advice. It's not psychological treatment. I am not your therapist. Some episodes include themes related to trauma, family instability, and emotional harm. Please listen at your own pace. If anything in this episode brings up strong feelings or memories, please take care of yourself and reach out for support. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you're outside the U.S., you can find international hotlines at findahelpline.com. You don't have to navigate this alone. This space is about awareness, not diagnosis. Every family system has roles. In healthy families, those roles shift and flex. Children are allowed to be children. Adults carry what belongs to adults. But in families where chaos is the environment, where tension is high, where emotional unpredictability is normal, where adults are overwhelmed or unsafe, children adapt. They find their function. They become whoever the system needs them to be in order to hold things together. And they do it without being asked, without being told, without even knowing that's what they're doing. Family systems researchers have been studying these roles for decades. The work began in the mid-20th century with a psychiatrist named Murray Bowen, who proposed that families function as systems, not just collections of individual people, but interconnected units where each person plays a role that helps maintain the emotional balance of the whole. What Bowen understood, and what researchers have continued to confirm, is that when family systems are under stress, children don't just suffer passively. They adapt actively. They find a role, and they fill it. There is a term in psychology for what happened to me. It's called parentification. It refers to the process whereby a child assumes adult responsibilities that are developmentally inappropriate for their age. Sometimes this is instrumental, taking care of younger siblings, managing the household, doing what needs to be done because the adults cannot or will not. Sometimes it is emotional, becoming the regulator of the family's emotional climate, reading the room, absorbing tension, preventing escalation, protecting others from the full weight of what is happening. Research has found that emotional parentification, in particular, the kind where a child becomes responsible for managing the feelings of the adults around them, is consistently linked to anxiety, depression, and difficulty with emotional regulation in adulthood. Not because those children are weak, but because they were carrying something they were never fully developmentally equipped to carry. And most of us, didn't know we were doing it. We thought we were just living. You may recognize some of these roles. The responsible one. The one who grows up faster than they should. Who manages the household. Who takes care of younger siblings. Who makes sure things run because no one else is going to. The peacekeeper. The one who smooths things over. Who reads the room before entering it. Who changes their behavior to prevent conflict from escalating. Who absorbs tension before it becomes explosion. The protector. The one who steps between. Who shields others from harm. Who turns the attention onto themselves to redirect cruelty away from someone more vulnerable. The invisible one. The one who disappears. Who takes up as little space as possible. Who learns that the safest thing is to not be noticed. The performer. The one who earns love through achievement. Who becomes excellent at sports, at school, at being good, because excellence feels like the one thing they can control. The mascot. The one who uses humor to lighten the room. Who learns that laughter can diffuse what words cannot. Who becomes the warmth in a cold space. These roles are not weaknesses. They are survival strategies. They are what children do when they have to function inside environments that were never designed for them. I want to tell you about a moment I have thought about many times. I was a teenager. My mother was directing cruelty towards one of my younger sisters. Something in me, some part that had been watching and reading and preparing for moments like this my entire life, decided I had enough. I stepped in. I turned the attention onto myself. I said what I knew to be true. And something remarkable happened. She backed down. Because what I said was true, and somewhere beneath the anger, she knew it. I remember feeling angry. I remember feeling sorry for my sister. I remember the shakiness afterwards. The way my body vibrated was something I didn't have language for yet. Adrenaline. A nervous system that had just done something enormous and was trying to come back down. At the time, I didn't think of it as anything significant. It was just what you did. Someone needed protecting. I was there. I stepped in. That was normal. But looking back now, with the clinical knowledge that I have and the personal healing that I've done, I can see it clearly. That moment didn't come from nowhere. I had been rehearsing for it my entire childhood. Reading rooms, anticipating eruptions, positioning myself to absorb what others couldn't. That was my role. The responsible one, the protector, the peacekeeper. All three at once, for years. Clinical psychologist Lindsey Gibson, in her book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, writes about something she calls the internalizer, the child who responds to family dysfunction, not by acting out, but by turning inward, by becoming hyper-aware, by managing, by trying harder, by taking responsibility for things that were never theirs to carry. She writes that these children often become the most self-aware, the most empathetic, and the most emotionally attuned adults in the room. But they also become the adults who struggle to ask for help, who carry everything alone, who apologize when they have done nothing wrong, who cannot tolerate conflict, not because they are weak, but because their entire childhood was spent preventing it. Gibson writes that freedom from unhealthy roles starts within each of us, not in our interactions and confrontations with others. That landed for me, because for a long time, I thought the work was about changing the people around me, understanding them, forgiving them, managing them differently. It took me a long time to understand that the real work was about changing my relationship to the role itself. And here's what I want you to understand about roles like these. They don't stay in the home they were built in. They follow you into your relationships, into your parenting, into your workplace, into every system you become part of. Because your nervous system doesn't know the chaos is over. It just knows what it was trained to do. And it keeps doing it. The responsible one becomes the adult who cannot ask for help, who carries everything alone, who collapses privately because falling apart publicly was never an option. The peacekeeper becomes the adult who cannot tolerate conflict, who apologizes when they haven't done anything wrong, who smooths things over even when the situation deserves to be named. The protector becomes the adult who puts everyone else first, always, even when it costs them everything. The invisible one becomes the adult who struggles to take up space, who minimizes their needs, who wonders if they are allowed to want things for themselves. The performer becomes the adult who measures their worth entirely through achievement, who never feels like enough no matter what they accomplish. And the mascot becomes the adult who keeps everyone laughing, who is always the warmth in the room, who is deeply loved and deeply alone with what they actually feel. Research on parentification confirms this pattern. Studies have found that children who take on adult emotional responsibilities are more likely to struggle with boundaries in adulthood, more likely to find themselves in relationships where they are the caretaker, more likely to base their self-worth on the approval of others. Not because something is wrong with them, but because the nervous system learned what it needed to learn to survive. And it keeps using those strategies, even when the environment changes. I see the roles in my own children now. And what strikes me the most is that they all grew up in the same home. They experienced the same chaos, the same instability, the same unpredictability. And every single one of them found a different way to survive it. One became a protector, not because I asked, not because I taught them to, but because something in their nervous system decided that keeping me safe was part of the function. When I recognized that, really recognized it, it landed heavily. Because I know what it cost to be the protector. I lived it. And the last thing I ever wanted was to pass that weight onto them. One became the performer, driven, exceptional, achieving in ways that go beyond ambition. And I see in them now what I understand about children who grew up inside unpredictability. When you cannot control the emotional weather of your home, you find something you can control. Something where effort equals reward, where the rules are clear, where excellence feels safe. Achievement becomes armor. One became the responsible one in the most literal sense, watching over younger siblings, holding things together, carrying the weight that was never theirs to carry. And today, that child carries anxiety that has no clear origin, gets overwhelmed easily, has spent so much energy containing everything that when the container gets too full, it spills. Not because they are broken, but because no one ever taught them how to put things down. They learned to hold. They never learned to release. And one learned to laugh, to make everyone around them smile, to lighten the room when the room got too heavy, to be the warmth in a cold space. But behind the humor, behind the easy smile and the gentle heart, there is a nervous system that never quite stops scanning, that checks, that watches, that listens for danger even when the room is safe. The humor was never just personality. It was protection, a way of staying connected without being fully seen, a way of being loved without being known. I look at my children and I see my own story refracted through the 4 different lenses. Same home, same chaos, different roles, different costs. And none of them, not one, chose any of it. They survived, the way children do. What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey asks us to shift the question. Not what is wrong with you, but what happened to you? When I look at my children through that lens, when I ask not what is wrong, but what happened, the answer becomes clear. Nothing is wrong with them. Something happened to them. In a home I was doing my best to hold together. In a season of my life when I was still learning what I had inherited and passing it down without knowing it. That is the hardest part of this work. Not the seeing, but the understanding that awareness came later than I wish it had. But here is what I also know. Awareness changes things. Even now, even late, even after the roles are already set. Because repair is always possible. An interruption can begin at any point, even now. Here is what I want you to hear today. The role you played made sense. It made complete sense given the environment you were in. You were not weak for becoming the responsible one. You were not flawed for becoming the peacekeeper. You were not broken for becoming invisible. You were not wrong for making people laugh. You were a child doing what children do, surviving. But you are not a child anymore. And that role that kept you safe then may be costing you now. Not because you were doing anything wrong, but because your nervous system is still running an old program in a new environment. I want to offer you a question to sit with this week. Not to overwhelm yourself, just to notice. What role did you play in your family growing up? Were you the responsible one? The peacekeeper? the protector, the invisible one, the performer, the one who kept everyone laughing? And where do you still see that role showing up in your life today? In your relationships? In how you handle conflict? In how you ask or don't ask for help? In what you believe you are allowed to want? Just notice it. You don't have to fix it today. Awareness is where interruption begins. Before we close, if this feels supportive, I want to take just a moment to ground. Because this can be a heavy episode to sit with. Recognizing the role you played and what it cost you can bring a lot into the room. So if you're able, just slow down with me for a moment. If you're driving, keep your eyes open. But if it's safe to do so, you may want to close your eyes. Notice where you are right now. Notice the surface beneath you, the chair holding you, your feet on the floor. Just let yourself feel supported. Take one slow breath in and let it out gently. Take another breath, and this time let your exhale be a little longer than your inhale. If it feels okay, look around the space you're in. Find something steady, something familiar, something that reminds your body that this moment is not the past. And if anything came up for you in this episode, a role you recognized, a memory that surfaced, a heaviness you didn't expect, you don't have to push it away. And you don't have to hold all of it right now either. You can just say to yourself gently, I see this now. I didn't choose this role, and I'm allowed to put it down. Take one more slow breath. In the next episode, I want to talk about what happens when we begin to step out of those roles, and why the people around us don't always make that easy. If this resonates with you, this is the work I explore more deeply in my book, The Fan in the Window, how our nervous systems carry what we inherit and how we begin interrupting those patterns for the next generation. The book is available now for pre-order on Amazon. The podcast is available now wherever you listen. If this episode spoke to you, follow the show, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and share it with someone you know who may need it. That helps more people find it. Thank you for being here. This is The Fan in the Window, interrupting what we inherit. This didn't start with you, but you can interrupt it.